everyone, Julie is here. I'm glad to see you on my channel Orthodox of Russian, and the theme of today's video will be non-public holidays in Ireland. So let's begin. Let's continue our review of national non-public holidays. The month of May is rich in one holiday, the first day, 1st of May. Beltane marked the beginning of summer. The period from Beltane to Samhain was called Big Sun, and the period from Samhain to Beltane was called Small Sun. Beltane, which means fire of the god Bel, opened the light season, and it was associated with the kindling of sacrificial fire and the corresponding offerings to the great sun god, Light Dagda, in the hypostasis of a fabric of fire. In Italy, this holiday fell on the full moon of the second month after vernal equinox. According to Irish tradition, the conduct of Ireland usually fell on the 17th day of the moon during the May calendars. At Beltane, cattle were allowed out of the barns so that they could finally taste the fresh spring grass. Herds and flocks were driven between two fires in order to cleanse them of any diseases that may develop during their long imprisonment. If the animals died of some disease during the winter, a small calf had to be thrown into the fire. A sheep or ram was sacrificed on field at Beltane in order to ensure good luck for themselves and others during the coming year. Previously, the victim was burned whole, but now they are eaten. Like the rest of fiery holidays in Ireland, this is a feast of fertility, the wedding of the sun god, Light Dagda, with the great goddess, in this case, Boan. The fetus of this union was the forever young Angus Macaw. To strengthen the connection between the fertilizing heaven up and the fertilized earth down, the symbol of the world tree was used. This tree is called the down tree. The most traditional maple is spruce, which has all but the topmost branches cut down. As a rule, the maple was cut down by young men in the village on the eve of the first day of May and installed in the village square. On May Day, dances were arranged around this tree. Then, when the maypole is erected, the Beltane lights are lit and the celebration begins. A sacred wedding is symbolically designated in this way. A wreath of flowers was put on the top of the maple. As the ribbons were stretched and wrapped around the tree, the wreath slowly lowered so that the tree, the symbol of a sovereign, slowly passed through the floral wreath, the symbol of a sovereign. The month of June also represents two holidays on the 9th and 16th. The 9th of June, St. Columba's Irish Day. Commemoration Day, the most Irish of the Irish saints, Columbus Kile, St. Columba of Ireland. It's also called Columcille, the dove of the church. Saint Columba is indeed one of the most alive of the early Irish saints, perhaps even more so than Saint Patrick, who, due to his immense popularity, almost completely disappeared into folklore. The alleged date of birth of the saint ranges between 521 and 523. His place of birth is the town of Gartan in the north of Ireland. He belonged to the royal family of the Winale, and from the very beginning was considered by his kinsmen as a possible candidate for the throne of High King. However, he chose a different path, devoting himself from early youth to the service of the church. A disciple of Saint Finian, a monk, poet, and scientist, he was distinguished by ardent energy and an active anxiety, with a simultaneous inclination towards prayerful contemplation and mental concentration. The life says that the appearance of Columbus was absolutely like an angel. The same life paints a more detailed portrait of him. tall and thin, like a crane, bony, but well-built, athletic, strong, and with such a loud voice that you could hear him from a mile away. Obviously, this is what the angel looked like in the representation of a medieval Irishman. Passionate and impetuous, vengeful and gentle, quick-tempered and kind-hearted, he no less willingly intervened in all kinds of worldly strife than indulged in contemplation. Perhaps with these features of his nature, a rather complicated story of his exile is connected. Columbus was already famous and revered by everyone, founded several monasteries, Derry, Douro, and Kells, performed many other feats and miracles for Christ's sake, when he suddenly left his homeland and went as a missionary to Scotland. One other legend calls this a sudden pilgrimage to quarrel with King Diarmaid. When the king ordered the burning of the church in which his enemy was hiding, Columba, outraged by this, raised his clan against the king, and there was a battle at Culdremne in which 3,000 people died, and the blame for their death was laid on Columba. In Taunton, a local council was hastily convened, which was to excommunicate Columbus from the church, and it would have been if it were not to intercession of Saint Brendan. Tormented by repentance, Columba decided to atone for his sin himself and went to Scotland with the intention of staying there until he converted as many people to Christ as died in that battle. This is the most romantic and it's considered the least reliable version of his exile. But that is May, Columba with 12 companions arrived on the island of Iona, where he founded one of the most famous his monasteries, the Iona Monastery, the future center of the Christianization of Scotland. From the rings of St. Columba, several hymns and poems in Irish and Latin have served, as well as the Old Irish Psalter Cathanak, which was revered as a relic and served as a talisman for kings during battles. Columcille is one of the most famous Celtic saints, revered in both Ireland and Scotland. In Ireland, traditionally, worship of Columcille is strong in the north, in Donegal and Ulster. He is credited with the authorship of many spiritual songs and a number of miracles. 16th of June, Bloom Day. 16th of June, Thursday, 1904, went down in literary history as a Bloomsday. On this day, the action of the novel by the Irish writer James Joyce Ulysses takes place, and the name of the holiday is in honor of the main character of the novel, the Dublin Jew Leopold Bloom. It's believed that on this day, the first meeting between Joyce and his future wife, Nora Barnacle, took place, and therefore the writer decided to immortalize this day in his work. 1904 was the year of Joyce's separation from his homeland. He moved to the European continent, taking Ireland not yet in manuscript, but in his heart. And, in fact, from that moment on, everything he wrote will become one big memory. Every year, fans of the novel Ulysses around the world celebrate Bloomsday. Many Ulysses fans come to Ireland to follow the route of Bloom and Stephen, making their Dublin journey on Bloomsday. Despite the fact that the 100th anniversary of Bloomsday in 2004 was magnificently celebrated around the world, including in Ireland, there were times when Joyce's name was not held in high esteem in writer's homeland. Joyce Ulysses was banned from importing to Ireland until the 1960s, but some daredevils managed to secretly smuggle the book into the country. But even before the official appearance of Ulysses in Ireland in 1954, Bloomsday was celebrated in Dublin for the first time in a very narrow circle. Then, 5 men, among whom were writers and a man who called himself Joyce's cousin, set off on a journey from Martello Tower to Davy Byrne's pub. More, until 1982, Bloomsday in Dublin was not celebrated. The 16th of June 1962, the James Joyce Museum was opening in the Martello Tower, in the very place where the novel begins. It wasn't until 1982, the centenary year of James Joyce's birth, that Bloomsday was officially celebrated in Dublin, after which the scale of celebration in honor of Bloomsday began to increase every year. Now, on the streets of Dublin, you can find a monument to Joyce and signs indicating that it was in the place that the paths of the main characters of Ulysses passed. This holiday is no less popular in other countries. Since 2004, by the decision of the St. Petersburg Island Society, the holiday has been celebrated in St. Petersburg. One holiday in July, 11th of July, National Day of Remembrance. Commemorate all Irish people killed in past wars or United Nations peacekeeping missions. The event takes place on each anniversary of 1921, when the armistice was signed that ended the Irish War of Independence. The main ceremony is held at the Royal Kilmainham Hospital, Dublin, Ireland. One holiday in October. 31st of October, not to be confused with Halloween. Samhain is an ancient Celtic holiday, but now the inhabitants of British Isles no longer celebrate it on such a scale as before. There are only a few traditions left. For example, baking special bread in the form of horns to appease the god of winter. The Irish still do it. Samhain was considered the end of the one agricultural year and the beginning of another. It was on 31st of October that they were finishing harvesting, deciding which cattle to leave for the winter and which to send for slaughter. In Scotland and Ireland, this day was also called the holiday of the dead. People believe that on this night, the one who breaks certain taboos will surely die. Fortune-telling has always been an integral part of the holiday. The future was predicted by the pattern of egg white on water, by a nut, and even by a cabbage. True, the fear of the otherworldly was quite great, so they preferred not to look far. An important ritual of Samhain was purification by fire. People jumped over the fire or walked between two high fires. Sometimes they led sick cattle. In the Middle Ages, custard-covered cribs bread were served on Samhain. They were baked from oatmeal of various shapes. The housewives treated the baked good with care, because it was believed that broken bread was unfortunately. It's interesting that Christianity renamed Samhain as All Saints' Day. It's celebrating on 1st of November, and the night preceding it's the very popular Halloween among young people today. The etymology of the word is interesting here. The name Halloween comes from the word Halloween, in abbreviation for the expression All Hallows Eve, which in turn stands for All Hallows Souls Evening, evening before All Saints' Day. This concludes my review. Hope the holidays ahead. Very soon. Well, I said so much, but we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Subscribe to my channel, mark the bell in order not to miss new release, and push the button if you like this video. See you in the next thematic video.